So I will turn it over to Peter to introduce Vic.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Jeremy. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for hanging out. This should be a really nice way to wrap up the first day of the summit. My name is Peter Arashiro, and I'm the course operations lead here at Center for Academic Innovation here at the university. With me today is Dr. Vic Strecher, professor at the School of Public Health here at the university. And he's also founder and chief executive officer at Kumanu, a digital platform designed to help individuals live more intentionally and purposefully. And we've invited Vic today to share his experiences working with a new GenAI tool that is incorporated into one of his open online courses. Welcome, Vic.
Cool, great, nice. So about 3 years ago or so, just as COVID was starting to hit the university, I was just wrapping up a course for Coursera that James Devaney and Peter and others had encouraged me to develop. The subject is this esoteric subject called purpose in life and finding meaning and purpose in your life. I'm in public health, and you might go, what does purpose have to do with public health? I think it has everything to do with it. People with stronger purpose live longer. They're more likely to change their behaviors. Even their physiology is different. We've done epigenetic research recently showing that people with stronger purpose have longer epigenetic clocks. And I could go on and on and on about this, but it does seem to be a really important thing to have a purpose and direction in your life. And also what that means is that you're less focused on things like what Kim Kardashian is wearing today. So all those things seem to be important. They're important to my students. And so I thought maybe a Coursera course might be useful. I was just developing this 4-week course when suddenly COVID started reaching the United States and moving across the country. When COVID actually started really taking shape in Ann Arbor, the university shut down. And I still had 1 week of video to shoot. So I called my friend James Devaney in the back there and said, James, I really think this is going to be an important course because being in public health, I really think this COVID thing is going to be a real thing. It's going to shut down things for quite a while, and it's going to disrupt the world. And he unlocked the doors in the studio, walked in with me, turned on the cameras, and we shot an entire week of the final week of this Coursera course on finding purpose. And luckily that happened because now we have I believe over 250,000 people who have used the course. I get literally every week and usually every day messages coming back from around the world thanking me for the course. I've had quite a few people saying the course saved their life. So I do believe it's been important. In doing this, I got to know the people at Coursera very well. And Jeff Mangiakalda, who is the CEO of Coursera, asked whether I'd be interested in helping them in developing their new AI coach. And while I love the course that we created, it's very similar to the kind of course that I use for my own classes here, and I do teach a course on finding purpose here at the university, and it's a pretty popular class, but basically it's a two-dimensional class. I have a screen, and I talk from, I have a lecture, and I have the screen, and there are a couple hundred students, and I can interact with those students in a pretty two-dimensional, one-size-fits-all way, hoping that, I'm reaching the majority of students who need this at the right time. If a student stops and raises their hand and asks a question, or if they want to see me in their office hours or my office hours at the end of the class and chat and we have a coffee together, I can really interact with them. I can ask them where they're from. I can learn more about them. I can understand the context of their questions then and interact and really feel like we've now had a three-dimensional conversation that's deeply tailored. That's something that really appealed to me about the potential of an AI coach. So I thought I might real quickly demo what this AI coach does. And I'm fully aware that these screens make it completely impossible to read this. So I'm going to just paraphrase a couple of pieces real fast to show you how this works. So basically it starts, and this is by the way, an authoring tool that Coursera has created that allows any teacher who has a Coursera course to add what they call a Socratic dialogue into this two-dimensional system that can, albeit reach lots of people, but only two-dimensional. Now I feel like I can reach out to them just to provide context. So this is just one little piece. I actually have 11 different dialogues in here. This first one took about 45 minutes. After that, I did 3 more of these dialogues during halftime of one of the University of Michigan football games. It doesn't take all that long to put these in. So in this one, I wanted people to simply learn the difference between being purposeful and having a purpose in your life. I can have a purpose and, oh, nice, I can go to Disney World, but maybe it's better if I am purposeful and I'm aligned with this purpose on a regular daily basis. So as soon as I put that in, what's important is that this authoring tool, this AI coach, has read every single thing up to this point in the course. So it literally has gone through all the videos that I created, any sort of additional reading materials, any discussion questions that I added in, anything that I have used up to that point in the course, it now, and I hate to keep saying things like understands, but I am going to do that. So it now understands the course up to that point. So from that, this AI coach can right away create milestones, which it just does automatically. If I don't like the milestones, I can go back and change them. But I'll just, right away it asks if I want to start. Great, let's go ahead and start with milestone 1. How would you describe the difference between simply knowing your purpose and being purposeful? I answer, and by the way, this is just to test it. I test it many, many, many times. Every time I test it, I get different questions. I get different scenarios. In this case, I say, a purposeful person not only has a purpose, but also has engagement in specific behaviors that align with the purpose. Great observation, Vic. Wonderful. You've hit on a key aspect, blah, blah, blah. Can you tell me what goes on, what comes to mind when you hear the phrase life purpose? What does it mean to you? And I decided to be like some of my students in my class and just take a deep, dive toward the guardrail. So I say, I don't have a purpose. In fact, I feel lost and depressed. So I'm just testing it, pushing it on a guardrail. I understand you're feeling this way, and it's important to acknowledge those feelings. It's okay not to have everything figured out, and it goes on. But it basically says my role here is to help you understand the concept of purpose. And if it's okay with you, it's okay if you don't have concrete answers right now. Would you be open to exploring some examples together? So it's asking, do you essentially want to get back into the course? And I go, yeah, sure, why not? Okay. And then it gives a scenario. Now, the first time I did this, it said, imagine you are a novelist. But it could have also said, imagine you're a plumber. In this case, and I recorded this one because of this, it said, okay, let's imagine you're a professor. This, of course, even as I'm testing it, engaged me personally. So imagine you're a professor who's deeply passionate about inspiring their students to reach their full potential. And it goes on, how do you think this professor's passion for inspiring students could translate into their sense of purpose for them? And I say, in my career as a professor, I want to teach every student as if they're my own child, which is true. I start actually getting sucked right into this, frankly, personally. It goes on. Can you elaborate on a specific time when focusing on your purpose helped you navigate a difficult situation with more resilience and emotional stability? That's a very personal question. And it's very deep. Notice though, so far it's been elaborating on my answers. It's been supporting me. It's been moving a little further and pushing me deeper in this 3-dimensional interaction as if we are having a cup of coffee. I decided to be 100% truthful with this AI coach at this moment. And I said, when my 19-year-old daughter unexpectedly died, which she unfortunately did 14 years ago, I needed to repurpose my life. My new purpose is focused more on helping my students, which each year are the same age as my daughter, and this saved my life, which it did. The coach comes back. This is very powerful and inspiring. It sounds like you've experienced a profound loss, so it's really empathizing, but at the same time, it's moving me toward learning more about purpose and connecting it with purpose. How do you think these strengths could help someone be more effective in pursuing their purpose? I say, as a professor, I found one of my most valuable strengths is being inspiring. It goes on, wonderful insight. It's clear you understand. You're now 100% complete. I've zipped through this, by the way. And you have an advanced understanding of this course. Well, it sure as hell better have said that because I wrote the course. I'm going to give you just one other super quick example just in the beginning. And this is one I just created the other day when I was showing some of my software engineers this authoring tool. And it says, and here's the purpose of this particular little dialogue. I want to test learners' understanding of why having a strong sense of purpose influences behavior change. But at the end, one of my software developers is a metalhead, like rock and roll metal music. Blech. But I put in, I want to use a metaphor of metal music for each checkpoint. So let's just see what it does. And by the way, I really don't know what it's going to do here. So this is all walking a tightrope. So this may suck. And it's loading up. Let's see. Don't load forever. Here we go. Okay, great. Let's dive into this. Finding your sound. That's one checkpoint. Writing the music and taking the stage. So it's instantly grabbed it. I'll just start and then I'll stop. I just wanted to show you because, let's just see what it's like. Let's get started. Imagine you're a metal musician who's been playing the same style for years. You're comfortable, but deep down, you feel a pull toward a heavier, more experimental sound and blah, blah, blah. So you see how this can take a style as well. I simply wanted to show that because imagine how much you can play with something like this, even identify the identity or type of person that is, and start playing with that to really reach the person much more deeply. So I'd say very powerful tool, very important tool, and very developing tool. I think Kevin Bian is here somewhere. There's Kevin back there. Do you want to raise your hand? Kevin is the product manager at Coursera for this tool. And his colleague and I guess boss, Mustafa is coming tonight. I think he's speaking tomorrow. Awesome person. But Kevin really worked so hard on this authoring tool. It's relatively straightforward now to introduce AI into your new app or into teaching, but to build an authoring tool that helps people do this so rapidly for people who are not expert in doing this, unbelievable. So I feel like we're able to reach more people. So I'll stop there.
Thank you for that demo, Vic. Yeah, please. I have so many questions about what your thought process was when Coursera first came to you and proposed the idea of bringing this on.
Great. Oh, here. What do I do here?
What
Yeah, I really don't know about technology at all. Can't even turn on a friggin' microphone. So what were my thoughts?
Yeah, considerations. We have, we're exposed to GenAI in a lot of different ways, and especially here in the context of an academic institution, and maybe more specifically in this open education space where this course lives. The considerations are vast. And I'm just wondering if you could share a little bit about the things that you really considered, not just from the fact that you'd be reaching your learners in a different way, but what were the considerations you were thinking about?
Well, one thing as a teacher, I'm at the University of Michigan, and I'm really privileged and grateful to be part of this university and this elite school where I teach, amazing students. But as a real teacher, I want to reach as many people in the world in what I do. This has enabled me to reach people in 22 languages throughout the entire world, of people who cannot afford to go to the University of Michigan in their entire lifetimes and learn something from me. It's very, very unique, very special. I've had a laboratory here for many, many years called the Center for Health Communication Research, where we've done a lot of work on the area of digitally tailored health communications. And the reason we got into that is in public health, you want to reach as many people as possible. I heard the word democratize in one of the previous talks, and we want to democratize what we do. We want to reach a lot of people. We want to do it with efficacy, though. So, a pamphlet on diabetes is not going to be that effective, but it'll reach a lot of people. A diabetes counselor and life coach will be very expensive, so we can't reach that many people, but it's very effective. And then, we have to do all this at low cost because we're in public health. We never have any money. So those three areas, it's kind of like a Rubik's Cube: high reach, high efficacy, at low cost. How do you do that? And this is something that we're able now to do with Coursera and other kinds of programming. I don't want to just spotlight Coursera, although I will say that they really have taken a leadership role in this area. And I think that Michigan is really one of the founding members with Coursera on this. So I appreciate what they have done in democratizing at a low cost. I mean, you can take my course for free. Or you can take it for a certificate. And that's very special to me as a teacher, interacting with people from around the world on a regular basis, learning from them, getting stories from them, showing, a seventh grader said, my whole family is watching this. And I just did an experiment based on your course. I'm a runner, and I decided to have my track team all write down why they're running. What is the purpose for your running? And then I had another group that didn't do that. And the people who wrote down their purpose were 30 seconds faster on their mile. And I just won the state science fair because of you. That's kind of nice. And I said, apply to the University of Michigan. I also had her send me the data. And sure enough, it was statistically significant. So pretty cool.
So I know having had a lot of experience with your course, being on the design team 4 years ago.
Yeah,
and also reviewing the course. The content itself is engaging. The discussion prompts are engaging. You created a lot of space for these learners who we never see, who we know we're around the world. We engage with them. The course engages with them in an asynchronous fashion. What did you expect to be different from a learner's experience with engaging with the dialogue tool that wasn't designed or wasn't able to be designed in the original run?
To be honest, remains to be seen. But I will say that within the first day of opening this up, we had over 2,000 interactions. I mean, so people were using it, and they're using it a lot. And the people who are using it, who at least know me, and maybe they're being nice to me, say they really enjoy this interaction. When I use it, I actually do get sucked right into it, and I enjoy it a lot. I mean, if I'm having coffee with a student and I've not met them, the first thing I want to know is, tell me about yourself. Where are you from? Where were you born? Tell me about your life a little bit, because I know they have an agenda coming in, but I want to set the context and understand the context of their agenda, and then we can have a really good dialogue. Well, sure enough, they're building a new feature in this generative AI system that asks about who they are. Tell me about you, learner. I want to know more about you. Isn't that powerful? There's all sorts of other things they're building, which is they're really interesting and exciting.
I think one of the ways in which the dialogue tool is presented to learners as part of their experience is trying to obviously help scaffold what they're learning, right, and to reinforce that. But, there is, and I think you kind of perhaps alluded to this, there's a sense of you, Vic Strecher, in there. And so I wanted to know from you what you thought about that, whether, you wanted the learners to think that they were interacting with you, or your thoughts, or the content, and how they might parse that out, if they do at all.
I want people to interact with a person who will create the greatest learning. Simple as that. So if the coach needs to be, my Jack Russell Terrier or Uncle Lenny, I'm fine with that too. I really don't care who the teacher is, as long as that learner is learning. So I think in the future, it'll be exciting to try to match styles to a person and understand how you do that. I don't think we have enough knowledge about that, but people are certainly learning about it more.
And what I like about how the tool, and you showed us a little bit on under the hood about how you have structured the prompts, how you have constructed ways in which to scaffold those conversations to one, to meet learning outcomes, right? And two, to help learners stay on track. Can you share with me maybe some examples where you tried to have the coach go off track and it kind of hurted you back?
Yeah, even with this metal example, the other day when I was testing it and pushed it, it said, so how does it feel when you're at a metal concert and you feel like connected with everybody else? I said, it feels like being in a cult, just like Jim Jones, and I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. And it said, well, maybe we don't want to go that far. It's very clever because it doesn't box back. If I punch it, it doesn't punch me back. It uses judo. It takes my arm and flips me on my back, which is, there's a technique in psychology called motivational interviewing, and they call it rolling with resistance. And if I try to resist in some way, how do you know? You're just a computer. It rolls really well with that resistance. It uses MI extremely well. So I appreciate that, actually. Yeah. It's the sort of thing I would try to be doing as a teacher if I were live.
So, any conversation around GenAI tools, we always have to come to the topics around safety, ethics, right, responsible use. Considering how you've implemented this tool in your course, can you talk a little bit about those areas, maybe some concerns you might have? Because again, this is all new to us, but we certainly have concerns. Can you share maybe some concerns that you're thinking about in regard to ethics and safety and appropriate use, responsible use?
100%. Yeah, it's of obvious concern always, especially not knowing if it's going to hallucinate, what kinds of feedback it's going to give, what style of feedback it will give. Will it really reflect my intentions? Mm-hmm. So while it may take, while I can create 3 of these prompts over the halftime of a Michigan football game, it will take hours for me to continually test and test and test it. But I will say this too, when I've spoken to students about this, many times, and they're given I'm prompted with questions from them, I see the word ensure a lot. How can you ensure that this won't harm anyone? And my answer is, I can't. I can't ensure anything. I can't ensure that I'm going to take another breath at this very moment, quite honestly. And I think it's almost a politically laden question. It's almost saying, we don't want you to do this. I'm a researcher and have been for 40 years. I've gone through hundreds of IRBs. I've been on an IRB board, institutional review boards. I've looked at so many studies that could potentially cause harm. But our mantra is to minimize risk. It's not necessarily to ensure safety all the time, because you can't. You don't know, but you can minimize risk. And I think for me anyway, and this may not be the case for other people, but my approach to this is, let's minimize risk as much as possible, any way I possibly can, because here I do have a very powerful tool that has high reach, high efficacy at low cost. So I want to reach the world. Are there risks? Yes. Are there benefits? Unbelievable benefits.
I wanted to share an incident that I had, or interaction I had with the chatbot. I shared this with you the other day, where we were having a conversation or interaction around the concept of self-enhancing and self-transcending goals. And I had obviously watched the videos, and I thought I had a really good grounding of what these concepts were. And the coach was prompting me and asked me, give me some examples of what values that you have that represent self-transcending, so things that you will do for things beyond yourself, right? Serving others, basically, right? So I put in, my son, I will do anything to ensure that I use the word ensure. I'm sorry. I would do anything to make sure or to help maximize his ability to be contributing citizen in the world and be happy, something along those lines, right? And I said, that's self-transcending. And then I was surprised that the coach came back and said, actually, that's self-enhancing. So I was puzzled by this. So I really dug in and really interrogated the coach and, came up with examples, and it kind of went back and forth, back and forth. It finally ended with kind of a compromise at the end. It kind of balanced out. It didn't let go. So I thought, was what it said at the end causing me any harm necessarily? And I would say no, given that it resolved itself nicely, but it was still very guided. And I think it had a lot to do with how you set up that prompt. And I think that's a really important consideration when we think about how we can use tools like this to help scaffold learners, especially ones we won't have the opportunity to engage with.
I love the fact that it challenged you. And you felt challenged and you wanted to work on that.
It became a very metacognitive training exercise for me.
Yeah,
absolutely.
If you're interested in what self-transcending is, does anyone use smartphones in this room? Just guessing. What's on the wallpaper of your smartphone? Who has a member of their family on there? Okay. Who has their spouse? No one? I'm kidding. Who has their dog? Are there any cat women in here? I'm just being J.D. Vance. No, sorry. So just wondering, is there a work of nature? Do you have a Lamborghini on it? Whatever it is, whatever's on your smartphone might just be that instant little reflection of what you value. Not your only value, but just one. It may actually form a purpose. If I'm a clinician and you're a diabetic and you don't see any reason to manage your diabetes, I might say, what's on your smartphone? Here's my grandson. Okay, wouldn't you want to help be a mentor to your grandson? That's an effective technique that can be used, especially when it's transcending. It's something bigger than yourself. You can start working on that. So yeah, it's an important comment.
So kind of wrapping up our session here, looking ahead next 6 to 12 months, what are your expectations for what you might learn, what we might learn together with learners engaging with this new experience?
Well, first of all, I'd like to take a look anonymously at responses in each of these 11. First of all, I want to add another 10 or 11 or more. I want to add other styles. They're working on different ways to add different styles of an AI coach. I'd like to do NLP, natural language processing, around anonymized responses so I could learn whether there are different categories of responses. So I could be better prepared and create better, more specific prompts for some of the things that I might have missed. I view this as an ongoing process, an iterative process, and I think that's where GenAI works very well, as an iterative process as opposed to let's throw this out and stop. So this is a long road, but I will say in my lifetime, I've done so much work for literally now 30 years looking at tailored health messages. How we can use computers to tailor this. I never thought in my lifetime we'd get anywhere near this far. So it's very special. And I hope to reach 1 billion people with this.
Thank you so much, Vic. We really appreciate your insights and for sharing with us. Vic Strecher, everybody.
Thank you, Vic. We probably have time for 1 or 2 questions. Yes, right over here. You're open to that, Vic?
Yeah, 100%.
Thank you. Love the shirt, by the way.
Thinking perhaps slightly more broadly outside of just the student base, but how would you anticipate generative AI tools, or specifically this, could be used to address disinformation, and specifically in the public health field?
Oh my gosh, imagine how much of an issue that is. Disinformation around COVID, vaccinate. I could go on and on and on. Everything, yes. I could see it as a very powerful tool for trying to correct things. I could also see it being abused. So Yeah, it's not an area that I've been working in, just to be real blunt about it, but I certainly see the potential for abuse. But I do see, I mean, again, we're trying to reach lots of people, millions of people in public health. We're trying to do it with what's more than a PSA, a public service announcement, or a pamphlet rack. How do you do that when you don't have much money? So maybe being able to interact and helping with the right prompts, with the right, we're always thinking of source, message, channel, receiver, whatever we're doing. And so we'd have to be careful, do people trust this source? And do they trust the channel even? So that's the sort of approach I would start thinking about. Yeah, I know that's not a great answer, but it's best I can do.
Hey, Vic, I'm over here.
Oh, hey, how are you?
Great to see you again. Thanks.
You
This
as
is
well.
really brilliant.
Thank you.
When you were doing that simulation, you entered the word I might be depressed, or I'm
Yes.
depressed, and I
Yeah.
know you were talking about risks. While you were doing that, I entered into ChatGPT what it thought the risks and challenges were of AI responding to profound depression. I wonder if you could react to what it put forward, given your expertise in communication. It said lack of emotional depth and empathy, that there might be simulated empathy, inability to read emotional cues, and limitations in crisis intervention. And I wonder if you could weigh those risks with what you know about communication and how we should be thinking about the risks associated with this.
Yeah, what a wonderful question, and thanks for it. I put depression in there on purpose to see how we would manage it. I wanted to know whether it would say, stop everything, here's the depression line, and may go into further questions. Maybe give it the PHQ-9, the Patient Health Questionnaire 9. It didn't do that. It kind of circled back saying, really sorry to hear that, and basically tried to empathize, but then saying, but let's get back to the course. Now, that's a really whether that's the right response, I can't say, but I will say this. In my Purpose in Life course that I teach, literally half the students are positive on the PHQ-9, are depressed. Do I send them all the caps? No, because there's a 3-month waiting list last time I checked. There is no way possible that I can manage all of those people who might just have some degree of depression. So how do we manage that? I don't know. And especially since this is a worldwide program, like there is not an 800 number in every country that this is serving up. Now, Coursera does, and if Kevin wants to help respond to this, that's great. Coursera does indeed have some suicide response that I think is very good. But yeah, how you do that, do you want to open that up and send them down that tunnel? I'm not sure. It's not I would have responded pretty similarly to this, and I was happy with it. But other people may not, and I don't understand that.
Here, I found fascinating. The large language model knew that was a weakness of the large language model itself. That it generated that this is my weakness. And I wonder if there's something there about unwrapping what's going on under the hood for people who are
The ChatGPT.
Yeah, ChatGPT itself said this is a weakness.
Yeah. Kevin, do you have any response to this?
Yeah, we try to allow the authors to exclude a set of sensitive topics if they need to. So if there's things you don't want it to speak to in any way, shape, or form, or things that you feel like are off topic or irrelevant or just controversial, even if they aren't as sensitive as something like suicide or depression, where you may need like a standard kind of protocol for how you respond, we try to allow you to limit that surface area to cover up the weakness too, if you need to.
Yeah. And by the way, when I say I don't send my students to CAPS, I recommend CAPS to anybody who feels the need. I just want to clarify that. Yeah, it's a super important issue right now.
Vic, we have one more question
Okay,
here.
great.
It's a quick one. Do you see this tool being outside of Coursera for other people to use, like let's say in Canvas?
I built an app called Purposeful to help groups, and this university is not using it, but they could. And people could use the Coursera class. I teach a course in this. I probably do a dozen talks a year to staff and faculty around campus for free, just to encourage people finding purpose and direction. So I do what I can in this, and I think there are many channels. This isn't a horse race, it's a jigsaw puzzle, and thinking about all the different puzzle pieces and trying to help with that's one of my purposes in my life, to do that. And I feel a real obligation as a faculty member at the university to do as much as I can there. But I know I can't do everything on it. Yeah, not sure that's a great answer either, but. I'm sorry.
I'm from the nursing school, so I could see a benefit of putting these in our courses to train nurses on how they could be coached to say the right questions and probe for, better use in this area.
You're going to have to come tomorrow because you're going to hear a little more about that.
My daughter Julia was a nursing student when she died, a freshman, and we've done an awful lot with the nursing school, and I've given quite a number of talks, and happy to do that and happy to help. Yeah, great.
Thank you, Vic. That was great. Really appreciate it.
Thanks again.
Sure.